Paul from Small Crown Productions here. Welcome to today's contribution to the 100 Days of Shakespeare. I'm very excited to have Daley Donnelly with me. Daley and I are actually working on a project together based around Richard III. So we're part of an actors collective called the Fort Collective, and we're actually just turning up to rehearsal today. And I went, Daley, you are amazing with this history stuff. You need to share some knowledge. So he's going to drop some bombs for us right now, and we're going to hook up again later in the week and do another bit of a chat. So what we wanted to talk about today is Daley's going to give us a quick rundown on the royal lineage leading up to Shakespeare's time and the effect that had on Shakespeare's life. So what do we need to know?
All right, okay. So Richard III starts off with the whole notion of the War of the Roses, which ended with Henry VII becoming the king, setting up the Tudor dynasty, which seemed really strong. And although his first son dies, his second son, Henry, becomes Henry VIII. And it's a really strong nation, playing its part in European politics, which of course is world politics at the time. But he can't have a son. So he's married to into the biggest family in the world, the Habsburg family that run the rest of the world. And but Catherine of Aragon can't have, or is it Henry who can't have a son? But he can't get a son. So he gets desperate and he wants to divorce. But the Pope will say no for very good reasons. That would really upset the Habsburg dynasty. So
this means everybody at this point is Catholic.
Everyone is
right.
Catholic who is in Europe. So Henry decides to take control. And this is in the period of, obviously, in the Reformation. So Martin Luther has made his point in 1520, and everything's really shuffling around in Europe. Henry is advised to take advantage of this and become a prince and say, I am the head of the church in my country, which lots of princes around Europe are starting to do. And this means he can give himself a divorce. So he's totally ignoring the papacy, and against all that, he marries Anne Boleyn, and he has a child, a girl, Elizabeth. So he quickly gets rid of her, and eventually he gets a son.
Gets rid of her as in?
Chops her head off.
So Anne Boleyn.
Anne Boleyn.
Yes, just to be clear.
Beheaded.
He didn't get rid of the baby.
No, he got rid of... No. The baby's just sidelined off because it's a girl. But eventually he gets a boy, Edward. And when Henry dies, Edward takes the throne. Now, the difference is this. In that period, Henry is a Protestant in name only. He's still really a Catholic. He just has got rid of the Pope in his country. But Edward is a Protestant. He's been brought up as a Protestant. He fully believes in Protestantism. So it's difficult for Catholics in that period, very difficult. But Edward is not well, probably something to do with his syphilitic father, and he dies at the age of 16. And who's left? His oldest sister, daughter of Catherine of Aragon, staunch Roman Catholic. She comes in and there's a purge against all Protestants. It's a very difficult time. Then she dies, childless, and the throne goes to the illegitimate child of Henry VIII. For all Roman Catholics, Elizabeth I was an illegitimate child, and therefore...
Because she was the daughter of Anne Boleyn, who was the second wife of Henry.
When he was still married...
Technically, under
Roman
Catholic rule to his first wife.
Right. That's right. So England is not stable because Protestants believe that a Catholic should be on the throne. So it's not an easy era, but Elizabeth forms a very strong government and makes good decisions about ministers, etc. So Shakespeare is born in the Elizabethan era, but it's totally still being impacted by those decades of turmoil before. And for Catholics in that era, it's not an easy era because they are now being persecuted by this Protestant government. So that's the world that Shakespeare grows up into. It's also a period of stability because of strong government, but it's also a government under threat from Catholic invasion, from usurpers. Scotland is not part of this union. Scotland is still an independent country, and it's a Catholic country.
So, why was, you made the statement before that we had, a stable government, but it was under threat. What was it under threat from?
Foreign invasion.
Right, okay.
Scotland being the main
Yep.
foreign invasion, France, any Catholic country around Great Britain. And let's face it, it's still got this threat from the papacy that it has, basically gone against God.
Yep.
So anybody who creates war or a threat of war is praised.
Interesting.
And probably funded by the very wealthy Catholic nations that are still, exploiting South America. You've also got the rise of the fledgling Secret Service in Britain, led by Walsingham.
And that is the Secret Service that Marlowe is believed to have been a part of.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's an awful lot of intrigue and cutthroat behaviour behind the scenes going on. And I think Shakespeare captures all of this in the plays.
Yeah.
The plays are dark, the plays have the manipulative characters, and people are under threat. And I think that's the world that Shakespeare grew up in. Elizabeth dies in 1603,
Yep.
and the Scottish king, James VI, becomes James I of England and the union that creates Britain. And
So before that, England and Scotland were separate?
totally separate
Yep.
nations. And England and Wales
Yep.
are one. There's the plantations in Ireland that are British, but the rest of Ireland is just wild.
Just wild.
Yeah, well, beyond the Pale. The plantations were called the Pale, and anything outside of that British enclave was called the Pale, and that's why you have
that's
beyond
where that comes
the
from.
Pale.
There you go.
It's uncontrollable. You can't determine what's going to happen out there.
Brilliant.
So
So there you go. So that's the politics and the lineage that was happening at the time. That's the world that Shakespeare grew up in, and you can see it definitely affected his plays. So thanks very much, Daley. Awesome stuff. We're definitely going to chat again later this week. But there is some information for you to take away and dig a little bit deeper into in your own research. Thanks for participating in the 100 Days of Shakespeare. I will drop the link to the Facebook group in the comments below. And of course, if you could give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, have a look at one of these other videos that'll pop up at the end of this video, because there's plenty more here to dig into. And of course, most importantly, if you got something out of this that was of value to you, you will probably know somebody else who would need it as well. So please share it with them, tag them in the comments, whatever you can do to pay it forward so we can just keep helping each other out like Daley helped us out today. Thanks very much. We'll see you on the next one.
bye.